Pictures of you, all this still on my mind.
I have a wife, bruh.
You had this smile that could light up the world.
Cause now you've got this eye.
Okay.
It's I and all. Heaven awaits your heart. And flowers bloom in your name. Wow, wow, wow.
Welcome to Siblings 36. Kelsey's not here.
She is too
She
cool.
forgot
for us.
about
She
the
made up some
podcast.
dumb excuse. She said,
That's so messed up because she forgot about the podcast and then was like, oh, hey. And then just
Yeah,
blew
how-
us off.
"How convenient of her to just forget everything." Am I right?
Yeah. And funny enough, we're talking this week, me and old DJ here, talking about what makes somebody evil.
Evil.
Not-
I think it's forgetting about your siblings.
Well, we'll get there. Not how can you create an evil person, but what qualities that someone possesses would you say that person is evil? They need to be
Evil.
stopped. He can't keep getting away with it.
Honestly, sometimes it's a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
Ian.
Well, this is going to be it's definitely going to be a lot of nuance and a lot of gray area. Here's going to be the spoiler. Without having pre-talked to Daniel about this, here's the answer.
Don't
Number
say
one. Because Daniel and I had a very stimulating conversation about
the big
a
H
certain-
man.
about a historical figure before we started recording. Number one, leave people alone. Stop talking to people. Shut up. Number two, I know it when I see it. Number three, it is up to me to leave people alone and to stop talking to people and stop annoying people. Okay. And you should do the same. And every week that passes, I'm turning more and more into and also I want to go off grid and really having this
Your own cabin in the forest.
having this left-leaning libertarian podcast to voice my concerns about the coming generation is really reminding me of a certain hero of mine and some of his ideas that he wrote about. But just here's the TLDR. Just shut up and get off the internet. Have you started your seeds? Have you started your seeds? We're still about 7 weeks out from the last frost. So if you haven't started your seeds yet, and if you don't have a plan, you really need to get to the store and start buying what you need to get your seeds started for this year. Go ahead, Daniel.
Brandon,
now you respond.
I was just gonna say, you talking about getting off the grid. I watched this 5-minute TikTok video of this guy just building a cabin in the woods, just with 4 trees and a whole lot of logs. And I think my toxic trait is thinking that I could just run away and do that. Go off grid and build a cabin.
It's in us all. It's in us all. We're all monkeys. We need to we need to get some more established
I want to build a cabin.
political identity of this podcast. So Daniel, if it hasn't kicked in fully for you yet, since you and I are 95% the same genes,
We're 95% brothers.
you will want to one day walk away from everything and join the compound that I'm planning up and devising in my mind. We'll see if Kelsey gets there too.
Well, compounds always end in certain government agencies' rating.
That was the other thing I wanted to possibly talk about today was how to whip the people into a frenzy so that way we can bring in our anarcho-libertarian revolution.
All jokes, by the way, all jokes. We're not actually trying to, this isn't a manifesto of any.
Funny you should use that word.
Yeah. Honestly, the way it was sounding almost sounded like, when somebody would do something really bad and then people are like, how did we ignore the signs? And then they find a video that they made X amount of months prior, and it's some really messed up sounding stuff of exactly what they're going to do. We don't actually plan on doing anything bad.
radical left-leaning centrist libertarian podcast, Siblings in Name Only, credited for the first ever political attack on...
These are all jokes. These are jokes. This is.
Sorry, did I say the word
sarcasm.
anarcho in there somewhere?
Yeah.
Can you be an anarchist and a libertarian at the same time?
Yeah. No. Maybe. I don't know. You're hitting all the flagged words. By the
Well,
way.
hang on. We're about to start talking about the COVID lab leak. Anarchism generally refers to anti-authoritarian, in quote, or in parentheses, libertarian wing of the socialist movement. Libertarian socialism has been a synonym for anarchism since the 1890s, as the term libertarian through the mid 20th century. Oh, so it's the same thing. How do we get there, though?
You're hitting all the key words for the government right now. The big man.
Yeah, I want to see how far I can push it. We should start talking about Robert Kennedy Jr.
Are you gonna afterwards? Are you just gonna go out and all this stuff?
No, I'll just cover my mouth if I need to.
Yeah, Mother was talking about phones listening in and how she said Kelsey was really concerned.
Okay,
about it.
if you have access, I'm not going to read the comments, but if you are somewhere where you can comment on this YouTube video, comment and tell me, have you been getting those weird Spotify AI narrated ads on your Spotify podcasts? I've been getting these ads that are so weirdly exactly on the topic of things, to the point where the subject matter of the ad that I got was hiring somebody to fix a sagging front door of the house because air is leaking in.
And it was door not standing up straight?
Very weirdly stiff read of an advertisement. You know when when you listen to podcast
Almost like
ads
Two-Face.
and they're like, "Hey, what's it?" And it sounds like someone's reading an ad, they're like trying to put on their ad read voice. It sounded like somebody was trying to not sound too much like they were not a robot. Not.
Yeah, like an AI generated
Yes, it sounded so weird and so stiff. But it was like hitting on exactly the thing. There was that one, and then there was one about like exercising and which that's way too general. But it was like I got to the end of both the ads and I was like, what was that about? I mean, that was literally like as if somebody was like talking to me.
It's weird too, because you know that thing, like once you hear it, you pay more attention to it. So you're like, you get told like, oh, that's just because you were focusing on it, because that happens all the time. You just weren't focusing on it at the time. But at the same time, sometimes they're way too specific to.
No, this was something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what makes me think about that too? Have you seen the Spotify DJ?
The Spotify DJ.
So yeah, I've been seeing on TikTok. There's
yes, your favorite.
There's that AI DJ that will like talk to you in between your songs in a playlist, and it's like, so do you know like Cortana? Oh, why am I saying Cortana? Siri. It's like as if Siri was like interrupting your songs and being like, all right, we've got a new song for you coming up here. This really goes along in the mood that you were just listening to. We hope you like this one. And it's like talking to you, but it's an AI, but it's describing your music in between. And the way that Spotify inserts ads.
Just call it Spada.
Is you can put in so it's basically like insert a commercial break here. It's not like, so that way that if somebody takes out an ad insert on a Spotify account, they can retroactively insert ads that are up to date on older episodes of Spotify. So if I'm like, I want to take an ad out on Joe Rogan, for example, and I want it to play on Joe Rogan podcast, it doesn't matter what episode of the podcast they listen to. It's not like hardwired or like baked into that episode. There's an insert section where it can be updated and it'll run the ads that have been taken out. So I think what's happening is that there's AI ads on Spotify being inserted into these ad insert sections.
And with the amount of greed in the world, is it really too much to speculate that maybe somebody does just record a little something that you say on your phone, and that, every app asks, hey, can we use your microphone? What are the chances that somebody just doesn't follow the guidelines and starts using your microphone and sells your information to some company. Because I will say, greed is something that makes somebody bad. Perfect transition.
Great.
What makes a person
oh
bad?
Man, I had the best response to that, because this is a podcast and it's about having a conversation and talking to people, and now I forgot it. Oh, okay, I think I remember. So this is like this is basically the extension of, like, you talk about diapers or something. I don't have a kid, but if I'm talking about diapers really loudly,
Please
you
never
can
have a kid.
You can test it. Oh God, no, not in this AI Spotify ad world. I cannot bring a child. If you are currently pregnant or trying to get pregnant,
I'm sorry. No,
reconsider, because I know up to this point I've been saying leave people alone, blah blah blah, do this, do that. I'm gonna bug you all right now for a second. You have a social responsibility to not bring children into the world. I'm just joking. I was supposed to be a lot funnier, and then it didn't come out very funny. I thought it would be just contradict myself.
Let the human race go, bro. It's had a good run. Let somebody else, like alligators.
It's time. Yeah, it's time for alligators.
I
yeah,
said
sorry.
that around Kelsey, by the way. I was like, Kelsey, please don't have a kid ever, because
Even though she's pregnant already.
Like, yeah. Sorry. Hi,
Have
Mom,
we announced
but-
that on the
sorry.
podcast?
No, I think you just spoiled it.
Oh,
'cause
crap.
She wasn't planning on telling Mother until she was showing. But
Well,
So-
sorry.
I was joking. I was like, Kelsey, you realize you're the only person in this family that is gonna keep the it's on you to keep the bloodline going, because Brandon and I we don't do kids. And then she's like, I know, like, why you guys gotta do that to me? I was like, but don't have a kid anytime
Yeah, but also
soon. Like,
don't.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
And she took that the wrong way, as in like me saying that she was gonna be a bad mom or something. I was like, no, I just meant that as in I want like Kelsey time, and Kelsey being stressed with like a kid means that I don't get time to talk to Kelsey, spend time with Kelsey, because she'd be too busy raising a kid. And she's like, what do you mean? You think I'd be a bad mom? This, that, and the other. I was like, no, I just want Kelsey. I don't want
Yeah, read
to
the
have to
room,
learn
Kelsey.
this. Yeah, read the room, Kelsey. Yeah. Don't have a kid, Kelsey. Come on. I wanna hang out with you, not your kid. And so that's what makes a bad person.
Oh yeah. So okay. So there are definitely, obviously there are like shades to being a bad person or being evil. The gray area so much now is like how much can you, and I'm not even talking about like a karmic system where you're like goods, like all goods go into a pile and all bads go into a pile and whichever is heavier. I'm talking about
spectrum.
Like, yeah, it's obviously a spectrum, and it's not even just a spectrum, it's a 3D cube, where it's not just everything is
lawful good, like,
yeah, because what if you're someone who did like one good
like
deed in
lawful
their
evil.
entire life and one bad deed in their entire life, versus somebody
Yeah.
who's done a billion good deeds and a billion bad deeds, like they go into the cube somewhere.
I just want to ask you real quick. Do you think Mr. Beast is a good person? Because there's an argument coming up now that he did this really good thing, but he recorded it and wanted to make money off of it. And I believe that you need to record it so you can make money off of it, so you can help more people in the future.
Yeah, he's a businessman. I think
he has to keep it going. So
the
he can help
overall
more people.
The overall take, and every time I weigh in on something like this, I learn something that like, oh yeah, but you do realize that he like flipped a car over a preschool and like ran over some preschool children. So I don't know anything about that. I'm just talking about the business model of you record yourself doing a good deed and that feeds back in so that you can do more good deeds.
Yeah.
I think the
And
net
it also
takeaway from
inspires
that,
people
the net
to help.
takeaway from that is that is that it inspires people, and then he gets to keep. Do I think he's a good person or a bad person for doing this? It's neutral, honestly. Like
I think he's
at the end of the day,
better
he's a
than
businessman.
any other businessman. He's the
Yeah.
best example of a businessman. So I think he's a
yeah.
good
And
person.
if you, oh my god, I feel like if you really look at what he does, and if you have like an opinion that starts to dip into like he's a bad person because he records it, then shoot yourself in the head. Because like at worst, it's neutral. At worst, he's just helping people, and then he's getting paid to help people. He's doing his job. Okay, the same way that you go and do your job. And if I said, why are you doing your job? Why are you
teaching these kids?
House painter when you could have been a pro bono firefighter? You know, you really should have done that instead. You know. And I know it's not the exact same thing, and that there's more nuance to the argument that people are saying. But I think just Mr. Beast on paper is he does his job, he shows up, and then he gets paid. He probably has a lot more money than I do, but he reinvests that money, and then people watch the video and end up feeling happy. The end result is people feel happy.
Yeah, and you compare somebody like him where he brings in $100,000 a video with a sponsor versus somebody else who's making $100,000 for whatever they do. Is that other person putting all $100,000 back into giving to people, or are they keeping it for themselves and buying, you know, new cars, new house, new whatever, all for themselves, you know?
Right.
Like, they're not giving any of that back, so he'd be kind of the ideal good businessman.
I wonder if it would change people's opinion if he was like an overt flexer too, because he has more money than because I don't really associate him with like Lamborghini driving, like we're here at the Beast compound. Yeah, exactly. If he does, like it's like, look how crazy this is, now you take it, you know. And I've heard some people say, you know, the argument of like it's like leaving a big tip for. I saw some people getting pressed. I think this happened I want to say it was in Kansas City. Somebody left a party of people left a big tip for a server, and so some server walked away with like $1,000 tip for that night or something. And instead of hearing that and people being so excited that someone's night was made, and then you know they can make rent this month, the argument was they should be leaving a small tip for all people. And then as more details came out, it was not that one person left $1,000 tip. It was that a party of like 15 people each left a large tip, and that one person, and then I think and this is me speculating, I don't remember for sure. I think it ended up that they took a cut, and part of the cut was distributed, but the particular server did walk away with the bigger cut of the tip. So there you go. You guys got what you wanted. Someone got someone got a $10,000 tip, and then they got it taken away from them.
You ruined you took somebody's lottery moment, once in a billion chance, and you ruined it. You killed it. That
so
was
I've
their
seen
one
people saying that
altering chance.
That I think that same argument about Mr. Beast, that he shouldn't be using this money to help one or few people. He should be giving each person a $10 check so that they can buy a candy bar and a 6-pack of PBR.
To the kids in Africa, $10.
You can't even buy a 6-pack of PBR and a candy bar with $10.
Okay, that's just kind of what I wanted to know, where your base for the businessman side of what would make, because for some reason it's so controversial of what makes a person good or bad, and I think Mr. Beast would be a good example of
I want to
profiting from it but giving back.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a fun segue into like taking advantage of like situations. Like the thing that's obviously been on my mind a lot is, you know, people blaming COVID for like if the changing room at Target is still shut down, and people are saying, well, it's because of COVID. And it's like, in no other way of my day-to-day life do I even know that COVID existed. Nobody's walking around with masks. Nobody's social distancing. Nobody's covering their coughs. Nobody's mentioning COVID, except that it happened. And now everything that I purchased costs 25% more. And people are saying it's because of COVID. So people are obviously, maybe I shouldn't say obviously, but people are definitely and have definitely been taking advantage of COVID and the war in Ukraine and saying this is costing more because of COVID and the war in Ukraine, even though it's been disproven that gas prices did not have to go up because of that. People were just saying that. And then also they walked away with more money. The gas companies walked away with more money.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Gas companies reported their highest profit year ever. And it's like, I thought the whole thing was that they were raising gas prices because it was costing more to get gas everywhere. But how did you just profit off of gas then if it was if it was so hard? Which, granted, I think a lot of that is kind of politics and what opportunities were opened because of behind closed doors of politicians, this, that, and the other. Of
Yeah.
yeah.
So would you say that, and that's all a jumping off point to say, is siphoning a little bit of money by blaming something that may or may not have an effect. Let's say COVID and the war in Ukraine does have a small effect, but it's being overblown. Maybe to cover the potential loss. Maybe they're worried that it will actually cut into profits, but at the end of the day, they're siphoning off more money from you and from me and from your mom and from her mom and her mom and
they
her
them's mom.
brother, sister. I mean, that is that evil? Even though they didn't need to take all that money,
yeah.
they're still taking it from each person a little bit. Just a little bit of harm to
Just a little
everybody.
bit. I think
Just a
if
little
you're
off the top,
doing-
G.
If you put yourself in the position to screw over somebody else for money, I think you're automatically just not a good person. No matter what it is, to gain any sort of advantage over somebody else that's playing by the book, if you're cutting corners and screwing over other people, then you're not. You're not neutral. You're starting to go to the bad side of a person. Bad characteristics. Just a little.
Yeah.
Why?
Does that? Well, okay. So then what? So what?
What do you mean? So what? Like, so what? What are you gonna do about
Yeah.
it, bro?
What are you gonna do
What are you
about
gonna
it?
do, little bro? Nothing, because
What are you
you're
gonna
a
do, little bro?
billion-dollar corporation.
What could we do
screwing
about
over-
it?
Well, Brandon, I say we get our guns and then we go straight to the courthouse.
Now muffle it more, man. I heard every every word of that. What are we gonna do at the courthouse?
I don't know. No,
Set the people in the drunk tank free. Say, remember
Look,
this
bro.
day.
All I'm saying is, once we
Viva
start
la
forward,
revolucion.
bro. Once all I'm saying is, once politicians started making their own wages and the people weren't
Yeah. So what?
taking their anger out on politicians,
So what?
that's when, yeah.
So what? You're not gonna do anything about it.
I know, because the FBI is already listening.
Yeah, I know. Let's see. That
like my
might make for a good podcast arc to see how, because that could be
How
like
far
our
we can push the line.
that could be our guerrilla marketing campaign. You know, like so. I do you watch Mini Kudos on YouTube?
No,
If you guys don't, if anybody's listening to this and does not subscribe to Mini Kudos on YouTube, do it. Go ahead and do that real quick for me, if you would, please. There was a company in New Zealand, a milk company that apparently make the greatest milk you've ever tasted. And then there's a chocolate company also in New Zealand who apparently make the greatest chocolate you've ever tasted. And they teamed up and they were trying to trying to get distribution for this milk figured out. And in the meantime, people started freaking out, being like, this is going to be like the second coming of milk, chocolate milk. This is going to be the greatest thing ever. And then basically it would get distributed to stores and it would just fly off the shelves and then no one could find it. And then people were asking, where can I get this milk? Where can I get this chocolate milk? And then it got to the point where allegedly there were security guards being hired to make sure that people only took their 2 bottles of chocolate milk. And that then people were upselling this $4 bottle of chocolate milk for like $30, $40, $50, $100.
Sounds like
50 or $100, not $50, $100, but that it was being upcharged, and then blah, 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 yummy. People try the milk and it's delicious, yummy. But then it begs the question, was that real? Or were people just saying, was this just being pushed as a marketing thing, right? Was the chocolate milk actually that good? And then you also have to think about this in movies when people are like, when the chemistry between these two actors were so good, and then he actually cheated on his wife and left his wife to get married to this person because the chemistry was so good. And it's like, wow, that must be a pretty good movie. And you people are stupid enough to listen to that and then watch the movie, and then you watch it and the movie's just okay. The chocolate milk was just that good. So here's what we're doing. We're going to make a podcast so controversial and so good that the FBI gets on our case.
it's so good that the FBI tries to suppress it. Is
Yeah.
what you're saying.
And this is
And then
Sino
you push
season
it.
2, baby. Oh, there goes my hat.
Oh, the hat's off. Hat's off. Nice little. You got a little stick up.
I got a little
Hair
stick up.
sticking up.
That's okay.
Oh, bedhead, Brandon. Can't have that. Oh, actually, you can have that because you're going off the rails. It's to show how stressed you are about how good it is and how you're trying to get suppressed at the. You're just an honest man trying to make his dreams come true.
I am.
and the
Ultimately-
FBI's trying to silence you.
Ultimately, I want what's best for everybody.
Hey, so
And I
was
think
thinking,
that there are a few people taking the best all for themselves, and it's about time we take it back.
So since we're saying these things, you want to just act like we relocate, like maybe we do like the Canadian version of the FBI is trying to get us because we're based in Canada.
The
Not-
Canadian Royal Mounted Police.
Yeah. So in case anything were to happen, we are it's the Canadian people looking for us because we don't live in the United States.
That'll throw
Right
them
now.
off. How about this? Let's just CYA right here.
Right here.
All content of this podcast is for entertainment purposes only.
Only. Satire.
Do
if you will.
not act upon any calls to action. I think I missed a word in there. Unless push comes to shove.
Okay. No, okay. This is all satire, and just because we have 4 subscribers doesn't mean we're more serious
4?
than
4, Daniel?
it doesn't mean that
4?
we're more serious just because the 100,000 listener podcast can say it and we're the 4 subscriber podcast says it. There's no difference between them saying something funny and us saying something funny.
Here's the
It's all
problem.
jokes.
Whenever something good gets started, whenever there is a good like guerrilla movement of people, the people in charge of that movement end up making a little bit too much money, and then they're scared of losing it all. Do you know?
True.
Do you know how much I reported on my taxes last year?
$7.
$7. I am not at risk of having too much money, so you can trust me. I don't remember. Oh, I was trying to remember how many subscribers we have. I was about to make a point in there, and then it kind of just fell. 15.
50.
So,
Which goes to the point. Just because it's a small podcast does not mean we are more serious.
doesn't mean
about
we can't do
pod-
big things. Yeah, well, we kind of flew off the rails there. Did we ever figure out what makes somebody evil or not?
I think it's kind of what I said earlier is before we recorded is that just because you do good things doesn't make you a good person necessarily. Just because you are a decent person, it doesn't make you a good person. You have to do a lot of good things to be a good person consistently. Like, how do you word that?
Well,
Like-
I would just say, just if something's wrong and in your moral compass, you know it's wrong and you do it anyway, and then you do
Yeah.
it again.
You don't have morals and you don't feel
but
bad.
you know, and I used to think that too. I used to think like people really know better, but now honestly, I don't know anymore. I don't know if there
It
is
is
like a moral
crazy.
compass right now. I'm seriously, like I really
There's
don't.
not.
I think it
People
really
will
is
do
like
whatever they want.
It's not as bad as like boomers, you know, being like because I know a lot of good kids. A lot of the kids I work with are really good kids, a lot harder working than I was, and a lot better than the average. But, you know, then there's a lot of
Which
stuff.
granted, it goes
can't
goes
talk
the
about.
other way. If you do a bad thing but feel bad about it, would you still consider them a bad person? Not like you killed somebody and then felt bad, but if you off somebody and then felt bad about it. But if you made a little oopsie, you know, you got caught in a bad group of people, but then you regretted it, would you consider them a bad person? Like maybe they stole, because I know I don't want to be associating myself with thieves. And granted,
Yeah.
this is an example. I'm not using this as a real life example to anybody I know. I'm just using this as a hypothetical scenario, somebody you knew stole, would you consider them a bad person? But they
Well,
regret
there's
it.
there's that gray area, isn't it?
Yeah, and now it's like, is their word good or bad? Like they're like, I'll never do it again. You know, I feel so bad about it. But you're like, can I trust a thief, or are they just mind gaming you?
I don't know.
Oh, we don't know. What makes a person good and bad, guys? It's that gray area of just like, can you read somebody? I guess, and like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I feel like I can't get my brain to work.
I think it's kind of that repetition of good deeds that makes somebody good, and the repetition of bad things that people do
Yeah.
that makes somebody bad.
Well, without, you know, this food CEOs in place, you know, how am I going to get my daily dose of seed oils in my daily diet?
Seed oils.
Yeah.
Brandon,
So
hello?
maybe it's not all bad.
Where'd you go?
Maybe we do need these quote bad people so that I can get my. You know what's bad when we're looking at big tobacco and being like, oh, take me back to the glory days of big tobacco. You know,
I've never heard anyone say that.
that's
So
like
I'm
a
not
move.
involved
There's
with
like a
tobacco.
movement. There's like a movement of
Oh, because they're trying to ban
kids.
like more tobacco things with like
yeah.
like get vape pens out of kids' hands.
Yeah, there's like a movement of people being like, you know, like I would prefer like big tobacco because
I
everyone
want
knows
these loose
smoking's bad
regulations
for
on
you.
tobacco.
Yeah, while kind of like actively ignoring when people were like, no, you need to smoke a little bit each day, you know, so that way you can stay healthy and thin. Like
Yeah.
people just
You need to smoke. It just helps relieve stress. Ignore the cancer. And
well, that's what I
This,
do.
that,
Yeah. I just as long as I have my pack of red 100s a day, I'm fine.
a pack a day keeps the doctored close.
Keeps the Democrats away.
Amen, brother. Am I
Well-
right or am I left? I don't know. That's whatever the big man in my head tells me to say, because I'm just his shadow puppet.
Yeah, I'm just an extension of my AI, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
I am
ask
my
you before
iPhone.
he took over my head. Is if your government agent was in your ear telling you what to say.